have 6 persons. Hi, Kadi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see who. I can see Alan. Alan, can you hear me? Yeah, I can see Daura. Can you hear me? Okay, maybe they are waiting for the time. Yeah.
Yeah, we wait. On peut attendre 5 minutes.
Yeah, on peut attendre 5 minutes.
Voilà, ok.
Oui, maintenant, on va commencer d'ici dans 8 minutes.
8 minutes, ok,
oui.
C'est bon. Ouais. Merci, JP.
Ok, de rien, Madame la Présidente.
Merci.
Cynthia, can you also register? Appelez Cynthia, étudiez qu'elle donne la code. La code que je lui ai donnée, donc n'importe qui peut, oui, n'importe qui peut utiliser ça. Donc appelez.
C'est normal que je te vois pas sur l'écran. I don't see you on the screen. It's normal.
C'est normal, c'est ça. Ou bien je vais envoyer email.
Excuse me, are we supposed to be able to see you?
Oh yeah, not really. We'll only be seeing the presentation. Who is talking?
Adora.
Adora, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So we will be seeing the presentation anyway. So, and where are you participating from?
Austria.
Austria.
Yes.
Wow, and how is it getting on there? I know the weather has been quite bad these days.
Horribly cold.
I was talking to people in Ireland and they said there is a red weather warning, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty cold. Minus 10, 15 degrees.
Oh my God.
Where are you?
I am in Brussels at the moment.
Brussels, okay.
Yeah, I'm in Brussels, yeah, but I intend to travel to Ireland tomorrow, so okay. I was checking on the weather. So we have now is 4:30 now in Brussels. I'm thinking that maybe we wait a little bit more, maybe about 5-10 minutes for more people to join the webinar. And we'll start.
Okay.
Please, people can bear with us.
But where do I see I'm sorry, I'm doing this for the first time. Where do I see the presentation?
No, we will be sharing the screen. We will be sharing the screen so you'll be able to see the presentation on your screen.
Okay.
I mean the presentation from the keynote speaker. Okay. But as is always the case, you know, the first presentation will be done by the president of Adept Board of Trustees is just to provide an update of Adept activities. Maybe it will not be done on PowerPoint, but the presentation about writing a winning grant application will be done on PowerPoint, so people will be able to see the presentation on their screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And can people please, as people join the meeting, can you indicate where you are joining from, and if you can as well indicate the organization that you are representing, just for us to know.
Okay, I'm joining from Vienna, Austria, and I'm with SFC, Black Women Community.
That's great, yeah. And if you can write it down, write it on the box, so and the text box on the platform.
Where it says chat.
Yes, please.
Okay.
There is some noise. There is noise somewhere. Maybe Adora, so maybe it's from you. I don't know. I will mute your mic just for a moment. Just see, yeah, yeah. I mute your mic now. It's not actually from you. There's some noise somewhere. Yeah. Okay, it's better now. I can still hear the noise. I don't know if anyone else hears the noise that I'm hearing.
I don't hear anything.
You don't hear it yet. I think it's gone now. So we will be starting in the next 6 minutes.
I'm sorry, but I don't speak French at all.
Yeah, we will. I have one of my colleagues will do the translation if needed. I know. So I know it's not only you. So we will try to manage it as much as we can.
Okay.
We will be starting in the next 4 minutes. So people, please just bear with us. Yeah, it's building up. We have 12 people now. I think we actually aim to have 20, 25. So. I can still get the noise.
I also heard it now, but I think that was just background noise.
Yeah, I think it went again, yeah. So I can still hear some noise on the background. I will be muting some microphones because it seems like there's noise in the background. I don't know where it's coming from. So I have to mute. I think the noise is gone now. So welcome again to our webinar. We normally choose topics for our webinar based on the challenges that we have identified as facing our members. And the topic for this webinar is writing a winning funding application. We normally organize our webinars in partnership with people or organizations that have expertise in specific areas. And with this webinar, we've organized it in partnership with Admirahan, is the manager of the Social Inclusion Unit in Galway County Council. I personally know Anne and have worked with her extensively in the area of developing the integration and diversity strategy of Galway County Council. If there is anything that I admire in Anne is her wealth of knowledge in fundraising and writing funding applications. As you know, during our webinars, the first presentation is usually done by Adept Executive Director or Adept's Board of Trustees President. So I also have Kadis Sakawu, who's the President of Adept's Board of Trustees, and she will be giving a presentation on updates of Adept's activities. But before I pass the discussion over to Kadi, I would like to outline some procedures, that we will have to follow in this webinar. The first procedure is that please, if people can look for a quiet place, because we can still hear noise on the background, and so that maybe we need a kind of cereal, and in order not to distract presenters as well as listeners. The second procedure is that we will be the presentation of the keynote speaker will be in English. But the slides or text have been translated into French so that participants will be able to follow up in the language, in either French or English. But if people need translation, they can indicate, right in the text box of the platform that we are using. And I have my colleague here, Bora Kamwanga, will be doing the translation for us. And the last procedure is that we would like people to write their questions in the text box, chat box that is provided. And in order not to interrupt presentations, so we will only read the questions after the presenters have done their presentation. So please write any questions that you have in the chat box, and after the presentations, we will read out the questions and the presenters will answer your questions. So if Kadi is online now, I would like to pass the discussion to Kadi to give an update of Adept activities. So Kadi, over to you.
Ok, merci JP. Vous m'entendez bien?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Yeah, ok. Si on peut commencer. Donc, tout d'abord, je remercie les participants et les participantes. Et je me présente, je suis Madame Khadi Saho-Nyang, présidente nouvellement élue de la plateforme Adept. Donc, Adept est une plateforme enregistrée en Belgique en tant qu'association internationale. Et sa mission, c'est plus d'améliorer et de renforcer les capacités et l'impact de la diaspora. Je dis de la diaspora parce que quand on renforce les organisations de la diaspora, on renforce aussi la diaspora elle-même. Et sa mission est surtout aussi d'appuyer, de donner des prestations de services à ces organisations, mais aussi à ces personnes issues pour la plupart d'Afrique et installées en Europe. Et Adept travaille et coopère avec à peu près 84 pays, 28 pays dans l'Union européenne, la Suisse, Norvège, et aussi plus de 50 pays en Afrique. Et son but aussi, c'est aussi d'optimiser les engagements. Quand on parle d'engagement, on parle de dialogue, donc qui est nourri par le discours, bien sûr, mais aussi au-delà du discours, il faut que les États, aussi bien du Sud que du Nord, s'engagent pour que la diaspora puisse réussir et atteindre ses objectifs. Adept aussi essaie de renforcer ces diasporas dans la professionnalisation de leurs organisations, en faisant des formations, en faisant aussi des appuis techniques, mais aussi de créer aussi des partenariats efficaces et donner plus de crédibilité à ces organisations, plus d'armes, j'allais dire, d'armes pour pouvoir convaincre les politiques, aussi bien en Afrique qu'en Europe, parce que c'est que dans l'efficacité des actions que la considération peut être née. Adept aussi influence beaucoup les pratiques dans les politiques. Donc, on n'est pas seulement une organisation pour refaire la roue ou bien de refaire l'existant, mais on essaie d'innover. D'innover aussi dans la pratique, mais aussi d'innover dans la coopération. Et vous verrez que les services que Adept essaie d'implémenter au niveau de la diaspora en disent quelque chose. Sur les services de façon beaucoup plus classique, nous avons bien sûr un bulletin mensuel qui est une newsletter, des opportunités de financement, mais aussi de donner plus de visibilité aussi à vos organisations. Si vous avez des activités que vous voulez relayer, peut-être Adept a un plus grand impact dans la diffusion, nous pouvons toujours relayer ces informations. Nous avons aussi, comme aujourd'hui, des webinaires mensuels pour donner beaucoup plus d'informations, mais aussi former, informer sur des dispositifs qui existent, mais aussi, comme aujourd'hui, sur l'écriture et comment faire des appels à projets, parce que on ne s'improvise pas rédacteur d'appel à projet. Il y a des normes, il y a un canevas, il y a des politiques et surtout pour chaque organisation, des choses à respecter. Nous faisons des formations accréditées aussi sur le plaidoyer pour optimiser surtout le retour. Je dis pas un retour physique, mais un retour en investissement, c'est-à-dire tout ce qui est brain gain and brain drain. Et c'est ça qui est plus important pour Adept que le retour physique. C'est surtout comment capitaliser et faire bénéficier des pays d'origine de l'expérience et l'expertise de la diaspora. On a aussi un soutien du développement des capacités qui est géré aussi par JP, tout ce qui est SDC, le support technique aussi des diasporas en Afrique sur les politiques de la migration, sur en tout cas tous les engagements qui peuvent améliorer la gestion de la diaspora. Nous avons aussi institué, pas sous forme de base de données, mais presque, un groupe de consultants de la diaspora, bien formés mais disponibles pour être utilisés par les institutions politiques et d'autres réseaux. Aussi, nous faisons souvent aussi avec les institutions et les partenaires des forums de haut niveau qui peuvent être aussi accolés dans les grands agendas du monde, comme le Global Forum for Migration and Development, en partenariat avec l'Union européenne, l'Union africaine, l'ONU, mais aussi beaucoup d'autres institutions, selon l'opportunité du moment. Nous faisons beaucoup aussi de recherches publiques et des consultations pour avoir des positions communes sur des stratégies de politique publique. Et le répertoire des bases de données, aussi des membres, des partenaires comme vous, c'est-à-dire on a toujours besoin d'avoir de nouveaux profils de la diaspora, d'étendre l'adhésion des membres de Adept. Je pense que JP vous fera une mise à jour des adhésions. Et last but not least, c'est surtout un grand projet qu'Adept va développer prochainement, qui est le fonds de subvention dédié à la diaspora. Et ce fonds vise à établir pour tout et pour gérer un fonds dédié, on n'a pas encore un montant exact, mais qui pourrait tourner autour de 30 000 € par projet pour les organisations, les ados qui sont installés en Europe. Donc là, c'est juste une petite présentation que je voulais faire et que nous sommes actuellement dans un chantier avec beaucoup d'activités. Prochainement, nous aurons ce qu'on appelle les DDD, Diaspora Development Dialogue, qui se passeront une fois en Afrique, une fois en Europe. Donc cette fois-ci, ce sera certainement le Sénégal. On essaie de les faire tenir au mois d'avril prochain. La date va être confirmée prochainement. Nous avons aussi les EDD, qui sont les Journées européennes du développement, où nous avons déjà, avec des partenaires retenus, un panel de haut niveau qui sera certainement en coopération avec la coopération suisse, avec ADPC et d'autres organisations comme ONU Femmes sur une problématique de l'engagement de la diaspora, mais aussi sur tout ce qui est leadership féminin. Nous souhaitons, en tout cas, très rapidement, avoir, comme je le disais tout de suite, l'adhésion, en tout cas l'adhésion un peu plus conséquente, parce que ce n'est que sur la base de données. Je sais qu'on a beaucoup de demandes d'adhésion, et comme nous sommes en refonte sur le site, c'est très difficile actuellement de donner une visibilité et un traitement diligent à ces activités. Actuellement, nous sommes dotés d'ailleurs d'un chargé de communication qui va bientôt démarrer d'ici une dizaine de jours, ce qui va peut-être amoindrir les difficultés que nous rencontrons sur la communication. Et aussi, actuellement, notre conseil d'administration travaille sur une nouvelle stratégie de planification pour 2019 et travaille aussi sur tout ce qui est amélioration avec une formation, bien sûr, de la gouvernance entre les instances, bien sûr, mais aussi la gouvernance de l'équipe opérationnelle. Donc voilà quelques aspects que je voulais partager avec vous, en encourageant encore et remerciant la participation à ces webinaires, parce que comme je disais, Adept n'est que ce qu'en feront ses membres, ses sympathisants et surtout ses utilisateurs. Donc voilà, JP, je te laisse continuer le webinaire en souhaitant en tout cas des échanges très fructueux. J'espère que la langue ne sera pas, comment dire, un frein. Si quelqu'un peut déjà traduire les quelques mots de bienvenue qui sont somme toute pas des stratégies, mais simplement une explication de ce que fait Adept et surtout une vision d'Adept. Je vous remercie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kadi, for that coherent presentation. I think there are a number of questions here that I can read, from Omari. Marie-Jeanne said, oui, Kadi, nous te souvent avec Atu. I think it's just a compliment that she made. Yeah, thank you very much, Marie-Jeanne.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, and I think she continued, okay, essayez de vous suivre. Yeah, it's just the same. Sorry, now I'm trying to read the comments that people have. Yeah. And there is Adaura from Vienna. And she said she hopes there will be a translation. Yeah, I think Bora is trying to translate some of the discussion that Kadi just made. If anyone, if Adara, if there is anything that you don't understand, then Bora is in the meeting at the moment, and he will be very happy to translate it for you.
Okay, merci Bora.
So I go now. So I will give the floor now to the audience. If anyone has questions based on Kadi's presentation, or if there is anything that you need clarification, please let us know. And Kadi is still there, so she'll be able to clarify it. And if there is anything that I can add myself, I will be able to do that. And in terms of the newsletter that Kadi made mention, we hope to release or publish this month's newsletter by the end of this week. And as it is normally the case, the newsletter gives an update of our activities. It gives an update also of members and partners' activities. And it also gives listings of funding opportunities that can be assessed by our members, as well as events and job opportunities. So if people have any events that are coming up and that they would like us to publish in, not the February newsletter, but in March newsletter, please you send us an email to events@adept-platform.org. So having said that, if anyone has questions, please just indicate and I can open the microphone for you to either talk or maybe we read your question on the question that you have. Yeah, and if you have a question, maybe you need translation, indicate if it is you need translation from French to English or from English to French. And I can see, One moment, still reading. I don't know if Anne is there getting ready. Hello?
Hello?
I don't know if Anne is there. Anne, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
yes,
I just want to be sure that you're here because I know people are waiting for you. I'm just reading questions that people trying to see if people ask any questions on. Okay, thank you. That is Sadara. Yeah, Bora, my colleague is saying that maybe people can indicate in the chat box if they speak French or English. If you speak English and you don't need translation, you don't need to write it. But if you need translation, please indicate in the chat box so that Bora will know. So another question, maybe from Sergio. Sergio is saying that translation would be good. Bora, can you? That is Sergio, can you indicate what you want specifically, please? That's right. I think Bora is also typing the presentation so people can see if what Kadi just said, so people can see it right there. I know, yeah, it may not be possible to translate the whole discussion verbally. Yeah, like normally it will take too much time. So if people have some kind of specific things that they need translation, I think they can say that. Maybe I just give you a little bit of information again about what Kadi said. I think Kadi made mention of the DDD-8, the Diaspora Development Dialogue that we will be organizing in Senegal in partnership with the Senegalese government. And we are hoping to organize the DDD by April this year. I think she also made mention of the European Development Day, the EDD, and we are hoping to organize a high-level discussion panel on gender engagements. And I think the event will be coming up in May. So she made mention of that. And the other thing that she made mention is the capacity development support that we provide to diaspora development organizations. We provide them capacity development support in different areas of organizational and project development, which can be maybe to help them develop strategic plan, can be to help them develop something like fundraising strategy, a risk mitigation strategy, and you can name it. I think she also made mention of the diaspora technical support. Diaspora technical support is usually requested by our partners in Africa. That can be a government agency or a regional organization like the African Union. So what we do is if a partner requests our diaspora technical support, we hire a diaspora consultant, to travel to Africa and provide the technical support. The other thing that she made mention is the webinar that we are having today, and that we organize these webinars on a monthly basis, and they are organized on thematic issues. And I mean, where we feel that our members have challenges, and sometimes we organize them if there are key policy developments that we feel that can impact on our members' work, and maybe we need to inform them as much as possible on those key policy developments. So I think that is basically a summary of what Kadi said. Yeah, but if anyone has maybe any questions, then we will be relating to our services, then we'll be happy to answer the questions. I'm just scrolling down now to see if any other questions. I can't see anyone. Cesar said it's okay. What the conversation is all about. Maybe Cesar, I will try to unmute. Sorry? Okay, it's a question they asked before, that's right. Okay. All right. Sergio, I will try to unmute your mic so you can ask your question now. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? He is not there. Okay. So, sorry? No, I can't. Can you hear me? No, I've unmuted him. All right.
Si, on t'entend. Hein?
Okay, that's good, yeah. Or he's self-muted. So I will upload Anne's presentation now. Anne, are you ready?
Qui fait la présentation?
Yeah, it's Anne who will be making the presentation, so I have to upload it now.
All right.
Moment. Okay, I just one moment. Please just bear with me. All right. Okay. And I don't know if people can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, and if you're ready, so I will hand the discussion over to you. Now, I know it is your discussion that people are actually waiting. So I hand it over to you now to make your presentation. So Anne, over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Jipe. My name is Anne Malahan, and I'm head of social inclusion in Galway County Council, which is one of the Irish local authorities. Previously, I've managed a regional NGO. I've also worked in a few different places, both making grant applications at European level, at local government level, and also worked on setting up funding programs and appraising them. So I suppose you could say I have seen it from all angles. Can people hear me? Is that
yes.
okay? Yes. Yes. See. Okay. We'll start on the presentation. It's lovely to be here with you, and I hope you'll find some of what we've put together for you between myself and Jipe useful, and I hope you will be able to ask questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, Jipe, so topic is writing a winning funding application, and I think Jipe is going to move between slides for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we go to the next slide. Thank you. So I suppose to start with, when you're looking at making any funding application, you should maybe assume that the funder may not know everything about you. Indeed, they may not know anything about you. So you want to find a way of expressing your unique voice. You want to read a bit about the funder. You want to find out, what are they looking for? What part of your work is likely to be of interest to them? So it's a bit like matching up what you do with what they're looking for. Maybe you could say it is like a dating game. There's also, how long are you going to have to make your application? What sort of style? Does it have to be business-like? Do you have to use a lot of jargon that the funder will expect to hear? And what are the components? What are the parts of the application process? So there's a little bit to find out about at the start of any funding process. Okay, next slide, please. So just as I said, just a diagram here showing the relationship between your voice, your perspective, and what the funder would be looking for. So you're trying to match those things up because your time is precious, and you sometimes might spend time in an application and there was no match between what your organization is doing or what your perspective is and what the funder is looking for, in which case you've spent time on something that was not likely to go anywhere or to be successful. Okay, next slide, please. So what is that unique voice? In many of your organizations, you'll have spent time on a strategic plan, on consultation. You will have a vision statement. You will have a membership that you can represent. You will have your own values and ethos. And you want to, where possible, have that presented in such a way that it can be easily pulled out for a funding application. And that voice should determine the tone and the structure of your writing. So if you want to emphasize your links with a particular age group or a particular ethnic group, you want to get across that you're representative of that group. It may be that you want to get over a very professional impression. So it really depends on your own mission and ethos, what kind of style and impression you want to convey. So that can be very personalized and very unique to your organization. But always, I suppose, be careful to check that you are using language correctly, and that if you have different people filling in your application, that you have a kind of an editorial approach, that you have an organized style. Okay. So when you go to write your proposal, though, do make sure you've read as much background as you can about the funder. I always think a great start is to find out what that funding organization or fund, whether it be a government organization or a European department or a philanthropic trust, what sort of things have they funded in the past? Look and see what kind of projects they have favoured in previous years or in previous funding rounds. Read their annual report. Find out what their chairperson or board of directors is saying about their ethos, and try and put yourself into their shoes so that when you start to write your proposal, you can be talking to them and speaking to them in a way that they will recognize. Okay, next slide. So partnership with the funder. To some extent, a funder is looking for somebody that they can feel is a partner, not just a beneficiary of a grant, but somebody that perhaps they can work with on an ongoing basis. So one of the phrases that we would use is the capacity. I heard the president talking about capacity building and capacity building days. But the capacity, the capabilities of an organization to use that funding effectively will be a key criteria. So the mixture of the skills and expertise in the organization and the track record. If your organization has run other projects that are similar to the one you're applying for funding for, then that's one of the best ways of demonstrating to the funder that you have capability. So start off positively, and rather than talk generally about we will do good things, mention this project that we ran in 2012 and we achieved X, or we provided training for a particular number of people in a particular area. So if you don't, you must speak with confidence about what you have previously delivered, and that will give the funder some confidence that if they give you the funding, you could be expected to deliver that again. Okay. Funders are looking for partners who can give a clear rationale for why they should be supported. So where does that rationale come from? Well, it will come from the evidence of need. So you will want to have maybe research, evidence about your population, about where it is, statistics from the country you're in, and also statistics about the country, your country of origin. If you're making an application around youth or one particular age group or target group within your population, then you might want to have the statistics for that population. So research drawing on academic research or government research is always a good idea. But as well as that, your own consultation, focus groups, consultation with stakeholders, consultation with your own members that you can use to provide the rationale for the program you're applying for. So it's important to have access to that information, but to present it in a reasonably understandable way, and not, while you want, not embellish it too much. Be straightforward, be clear, and use figures where you have access to them. Okay. Also, you may wish to put a partnership together in your application, depending on your own status as an NGO. You may wish to work with other types of agencies. Equally, you will want to demonstrate that you have that background. You might partner up with another organization, either in the country you're in, or maybe a couple of organizations in different countries could come together to promote an application. There's increasing emphasis on having organizations from different sectors, public sector organization working with an NGO, an academic institution working with a public body, and with an NGO perhaps. So these kind of partnerships or consortia are often favoured by funders because they feel it gives a broad perspective on the programme. Okay. Length of proposal, it depends on whether you are putting in an unsolicited proposal, in which case, yes, decide on what length that should be. Perhaps write all that you mean to get across and then edit it down, have more material, have your background, your executive summary, your research, your rationale, and indeed details of the individual capabilities of some of the people on your committee or on your staff who will be involved in carrying out the programme, and keep that succinct. Of course, if you're filling in an application form, as does happen, then the rules, the length of different sections of the proposal will probably be being determined by the funder, and you'll have to follow those instructions. Okay, and the length, again, the scale of the application, if you're applying for something in the millions, you will usually be asked for more backup, more documentation, and more technical detail. Often you may require quotations, you may require providing detailed CVs of people, curriculum vitae, or resumes of people who will be carrying out work for you. And that is increasingly being required and encouraged for you to show those skills and expertise of the team that you will be putting together. If, on the other hand, it is for a local fund, indeed, if the funder knows your organization and knows what you do, you may not need such detail. So the length and the scale and the technical detail of the proposal will probably need to be adjusted for the type of project. Okay, we'll move on. So keep it as tight as you can while keeping with your style. The proposed pages should be clean. Don't eat your breakfast off it. Get somebody else other than the person writing it to check for grammar, for spelling, particularly if you are having to write an application in a language which is not your first language. It's always worth getting a few people to check the meaning of those words. And again, where you may have partners writing different components and they may all have different first languages, try and agree who would do a little bit of editorial on the overall program application. And obviously people who are fluent in more than one language can be a great asset in putting these applications together, and make it as easy as possible for the funder or the appraiser to read and quickly get an idea of whether your organization is worth considering for funding. Check funders' instructions with regard to the number of pages. This might seem self-evident, but sometimes people simply haven't paid attention to the guidelines. Where there are guidelines published separately, read those first before even looking at any application form or proposal, and maybe make your own note on what are the key aspects of those guidelines, almost like a project management plan. And I've already mentioned statistics and research evidence, and increasingly I do think we are all required to put in more statistical evidence and data, particularly comparative data, where you can talk about your own population, but also the other populations nearby, or compare and contrast, or refer to the level in your country compared with another country to make your point. And while you may wish to make a point about qualitative nature of your work, I think we are all now being asked for much more evidence of need on a statistical basis, but that does not mean that qualitative information, particularly quotations or evidence from focus groups that are carried out as objectively as possible, those can be really useful as part of your evidence base for your application. Next. And give a summary of your document. Sometimes that will be asked for. Style of writing, again, making it flow well. Have somebody else look at your writing together. Vary your sentence structure. Make it easy to read. We've said that a number of times. And summarize maybe with a single sentence at the beginning or the end, and conclude your application. Make sure it doesn't look like you ran out of time or ran out of space. Often it will say 800 words or 4,000 words for a section, but if you find that you're running out of space, try and go back and do a good, strong concluding statement. Okay, next. Okay, and I suppose ideally, this is if you are preparing a proposal yourself, there's no guidance, you're going cold to a funder. Here's a suggested outline of what it might be, a cover letter of 1 page. This is why we're making this proposal, this is who we are, a little mini executive summary in a letter. Include the details of your organization, the contact person, key things like maybe your tax registration number, your business address, etc. Contents, if your proposal is long enough to warrant it, with page numbers. An introduction. Sometimes people put a stimulating or relevant quotation. If you have a vision statement for your organization, this might be a place to put it in. Organizational credentials, the track record, the CVs of key parties can go in here or can go in perhaps at the end. And your statement of need, evidence of the rationale for this project proposal for which you are seeking funding. The methodology for the program, what are you going to do, when, and how, and what will be the results. It's very important increasingly to show what will the outcomes and outputs be, what targets will you meet, how many people will you serve, how will they benefit, and how will that meet the requirements of the funder. Always relating back what you propose to do, as we said at the beginning, to what the funder will be expecting and what their objectives are. The budget, some people would say absolutely critical. The budget, 1 to 2 pages, ideally prepare on a spreadsheet, but make sure that when it is put into the proposal, it is easy to read and understand, and that the descriptions of the budget headings make sense. If you need more detail to underpin that budget, such as technical quotations or whatever, estimates, if it was, say, capital works or something like that, you would put those in again as an appendix at the end. And your conclusion then, just to draw the whole proposal together and summarize what it is you're looking for. Your attachments then can be some of the appendices, additional information that we mentioned, your resumes, curriculum vitae of the parties, any quotations to attach to the budget. But also here you could put in some statistical evidence, some case studies that form part of your consultation or research, and some other supporting documentation that can be considered with your proposal, but also can be taken apart from the proposal if they want a shorter application. So that's really the outline of what might go in a proposal. Okay. I just thought, Jipe asked me to maybe refer to some work that we've done here. So we're just giving you the example of the local authority where I've been working for a number of years. And I suppose some of the background work that we were doing that then contributed to a proposal for funding that we made. So between 2008 and 2011, ourselves, in common with many other local authorities in Ireland, went about writing, preparing and consulting on integration and diversity strategies, because Ireland came a bit late in the day to the situation where it was getting a lot of migrants arriving in the country and settling. And I suppose the whole challenge of integration hadn't really emerged in years prior to that. So it was only in the 2000s really that the government and local governments started to address the changing needs of their populations. So we formed a committee with a lot of agencies and some NGOs on it to prepare this strategy. At the same time, we formed an intercultural forum, which is still operating today, and that intercultural forum used participatory learning methods, and Jipe himself would have been very active in supporting that and involving that and in leading in some of that consultation. And through that, the key issues that were facing the ethnic minorities themselves were presented and included in the strategy as it was being written. So that was adopted in 2013. And then in 2015, government opened a call for proposals for funding under the European Integration Fund. And our local authority put in an application on behalf of a consortium made up of some of the other organisations who were already our partners. And we were successful in that application, and for the following year or couple of years we ran a programme around a lot of capacity building and training, citizenship supports for third country nationals in Galway. So next slide. So the example of that, for instance, I think why we were successful in that, we were one of only 2 local authorities in Ireland ever to have had funding under that programme. And of course that programme has now ceased, as it has been included in the new Asylum, Migration and Integration, Migrant and Integration Fund. Relating back to our general guidance on funding, the capacity of the lead partner. For us to put that application together, we had to say we were already involved in the business of working with migrant groups and third country nationals, and that we were supporting an intercultural forum, but we also had to give examples of various other European funding programs that we had handled ourselves, and that we had the financial and management capacity to do that. So our capacity and our track record, and also the track record of our partners. So there were a number of other agencies like our Education and Training Board, who had run a lot of European projects, and of course we're in the business of providing training, so they were a key partner. The health service here were also a key partner and provided some co-funding, which was very important. So we were also able to demonstrate the need for the project based on those consultations, the participatory learning activities that had previously been done with our intercultural forum, because we had been preparing the strategy. So we didn't have to go out at very short notice and do new consultation specifically to put in a funding application. Instead, because we were working on this, we had that evidence to hand, and we were able to put that fairly quickly into the particular application form. We also used obviously evidence from the census and other research evidence that had been pulled together for that strategy. So some of that was OECD research and other comparative data from across Europe and beyond. I mentioned the track record. We were able to say, look, we have these financial systems and financial procedures in place as a local authority, and also as an organisation which has managed other European projects. We already had the links with the other delivery agencies, with the training board, and also with an NGO called Equal Ireland, who had experience of delivering more flexible training opportunities, and with third level institutions like the universities. So those partnerships were already well established through our interagency group. And we were able to put in clear statements of outputs and targets. We were able to say 20 people will benefit from this part of the program. We actually had 14 projects, separate projects, funded under this program over the 18-month, 2-year period. And we were able to use impact modeling, which is a particular model for measuring outcomes rather than just measuring the inputs into a project. And that was something that we were able to demonstrate, which I think helped us in getting the funding. Okay, can we move on? And just on that, there have been trends. I was applying for European funding when I worked in London back in the 80s, and I've seen a lot of changes in the way the funds have operated. There's definitely an increased emphasis on the capacity of the lead partner. So if that is your organization, you want to be able to demonstrate the track record, the credibility of the personnel, the budget management, etc. At the European level, they're also looking for much larger numbers of partners. They're almost looking for you to apply in a consortium. And these are formal partnerships where you have to sign agreements with the other partners. Often they look for partners from a mixture of sectors, local government, maybe state agencies, NGOs, and perhaps universities, and indeed sometimes, increasingly, I think they look to see some involvement of private sector organizations. Involvement of one or more organization with a track record in applying and for and managing these funds is definitely an asset. Partnerships are larger in scale and often they require the transnational aspect. And of course, as you will know, as diaspora organizations, the transnational elements can be both within Europe and outside of Europe with groups in other continents. And also to prepare the application, they look for quite senior figures in the different organizations to authorize these. Okay. And just, this may or may not be relevant to yourselves. We're presently ourselves handling a large AMIF, Asylum Migration Integration Fund program. We're managing a resettlement program dispersed by the Irish government as part of their multi-annual allocation of funds. The majority of this funding comes through the individual member states. But the way in which it can be broken down for youth initiatives, for training, for all sorts of things can be quite diverse from country to country. We happen to be working on resettlement, but there are lots of community schemes as well, and indeed specific third country national programs too. There are a small number of calls. There are some open at the moment at the Central European level. But they account for only 11% of this budget. I've also mentioned Erasmus Plus because that has, of course, come from the Erasmus tradition, which mostly was associated with students traveling to and between colleges and further and higher education, but is now a much broader program and encompasses not just education and training initiatives, but also the youth and sport initiatives. And there's quite a lot of scope there to test run projects, maybe at a smaller scale. It includes the volunteering programs as well as a lot of the youth exchanges. And I think that is very well worth looking at. And I've just included the links there in the presentation. Okay, so next slide. That's really nearly the end of my presentation. And just, I suppose, to summarize, I just called it a few tips and tricks, if you understand that. I suppose because sometimes the opportunity to put in for funding comes up quite quickly, and you may want to put stuff together quite quickly. It's always a good idea to have a summary overview of your work prepared, your research, your consultations, and also to be able to respond to others who are looking for partners in their applications, because that can be a good way to get a trial run at a program, and also to see if those are partners, if you've not worked with them before, that you want to work with them, that you have similar ethos that you could develop a longer term relationship with. Do carry out the consultation with the target groups you're working with on an ongoing basis, so you will have up-to-date consultation, whether it's stakeholder interviews, surveys, focus groups, and that you can use at quite short notice if you need to be putting a well-researched funding proposal together. And of course, same goes for the research. It can be useful to partner up with academic institutions or get master's research students in and have them gather research for you that you can then use for funding applications. Comparative data I mentioned before, not just about your own group and target group, but how do they compare with other groups, other countries, etc. And along the way, build alliances and build relationships with other organizations outside maybe your comfort zone, outside your sector, outside your own ethnic group, and see are those organizations you can work with who have complementary skills and that you could look at working together to develop joint proposals. One of the ways to see whether you would enjoy working with them or have a common vision is to do smaller projects with them on a test basis. So you don't ever go in for a really large project or proposal with other organizations that you're not sure if it's going to work out. So those are my few tips or hints. I hope you find them of some use, or maybe they're all things you've already thought of. And how we would say Goramila Mahagiv is thank you in Irish. Thank you very much. And I hope that was of some use.
Yeah, and thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation. I think it was very useful, to our members. And I think a couple of questions for you. And I think maybe when you start answering those questions, there'll be more. But there is something that I would like to clarify. You indicated that some of the fundings, like AMIF that you mentioned, that can be assessed by individual member states. So I just want to clarify that there is in every EU country there is a national contact point for migrant integration. I suppose that is what you mean. Like in Ireland, we have the Office for Promotion of Migrant Integration. And I suppose there will be national contact points in other countries. So what I'm trying to say is that people should contact, government, and see which of the agencies they handles matters related to migrant integration, because most of the times EU money is being provided through these national contact points and people can access it.
Yeah. Just on that, because some years ago I did some research for NGOs in Northern Ireland who had far less access to European funding than their equivalents in the rest of the UK, believe it or not. It was because government departments at the time in Northern Ireland were... Hello?
Yes, go on, Anne.
Were handling a lot of the funds directly and dispensing it to projects that they wanted to fund through their own schemes.
Go on. Hello? It seems like we've lost Anne somewhere there. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I can't hear. And can anyone hear me? Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It seems like we've lost Anne somewhere there.
Ouais, on a perdu Anne, ouais.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe the connection problem. So I will.
So can I just
Yeah.
Can I just ask? Is it? I just listened to the last bit of it. I got the time wrong. Is it possible to share the presentation via email?
Definitely, yeah. If
Thank you.
yeah, we normally share the presentation as we will share this one to people. That will be okay. Yeah. Any other question? I think there is a question here, and someone asked how to present an organization's vision in the best possible way. Yeah. Yeah, let me just read it. Adaura asks how to present the organization and its vision best. Yeah, I think I've had that kind of. I was helping a client recently, and had extensive discussion on that idea on how to present a vision. I will say that there are two ways to present an organization vision. There is one way that is being used by corporates, businesses, and the way they present their own vision is what they want to be in future. For example, you see an organization presenting its own vision is that to be the best company that supplies X, Y, and Z in future. So what that means is that they present their vision in a way that they want to impress some people like investors who want to invest into the organization. Presenting a picture on what the organization will be in future. It will be the best organization that will supply this X, Y, and Z in future. So I strongly advise mission-driven organizations to present their own vision in another way. Present your own vision on the kind of world that you would like to see in future, and not what you will want to be in future. So businesses will present their own vision on what they will want to be in future, but a mission-driven organization or an organization that is out to address social change, I think it's better to present it what the kind of world that you would like to be, you would like to see in future. I don't know if that answers your question. And it is important to keep your vision short as much as possible, because I've seen some organization presenting a vision and trying to explain what it means and so on. So if you present it in a kind of short, catchy, and clear, then in that case, you don't need to be explaining again what the vision means. So it is important to present it in short and catchy, and as I said, the kind of world that you like to see in future, as opposed to the kind of organization that you like to be in future. Okay, any other one? Yeah, if any other person has a question, I don't know if Anne hasn't arrived yet. Maybe she's out here. Okay, and Anne is out. If any other person has a question, please, you can ask. If any other person has question, you can ask, and we'll be happy to answer.
I just wrote something.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah, I think again, can you send us example of a good EU application? Yeah, in terms of example of a good EU application, I suppose you mean application that has succeeded in getting the grant. Yeah, I will check. With as I think when I was in Ireland, we worked on a number of applications, and I will check with her maybe if she can send us any application that was made by the Galway County Council that was successful, an EU application, and I will share with people if they do need it. Okay. Any other question? Yeah, Chris is affirming that a successful application will be very good, definitely, because you can't share an application if it wasn't successful in the first place. Any other question? Yeah, as I said, it seems like as we've lost Anne, I think, as I said, I will get in touch with her to see maybe if she has any other information like material that she would like to provide to the audience. And if she provides it, then I will email it to people. If people need any translation in French, as Anne's presentation was in English, I think my colleague Bora was trying to translate some of the text to people. But if people need something clarification in French, please indicate, and would like to help us much as we can.
Hello, Jipe.
Hello.
Yes, this is Sergio from Development Aid. Just rather a remark than a question. Anne mentioned in her presentation that it is very important to. Hello, can you hear me?
I can't very well. Yeah, go on, Sergio.
Yeah, so she mentioned that it's very important to find good partners that already have strong experience, especially if it's experience that your organization is lacking. And specifically for EU-funded projects, it is very important to have organizations that has worked previously with you and have multiple project awards. And so with this message, I would like to remind that all members of Adept can have access to a system and a network of over 95,000 organizations and their previous experiences. So this can be done by accessing www.developmentaid.org, and through Adept you can get also a special discount and special offer for development aid.
Thanks very much for that offer, Sergio. Yeah.
Excuse me?
I'm saying thank you very much for the offer.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to. I think we partnered to organize a webinar on how to raise funds, maybe find tenders. Through your platform, which is one of the biggest platform that advertises tenders, and which was quite successful. And thanks very much for offering that our members can access information on your platform at a kind of a discount. So it is an opportunity that people may want to take.
Could you please repeat the website, please? I didn't get all. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question or comment? Anyway, in the absence of questions, it looks like Anne has arrived. Anne, can you hear us? Hello?
Yep. Sorry.
Anne, yeah, we lost you somewhere there.
You did. My laptop ran out of charge.
Yeah.
So I had to go upstairs in the lift, borrow a charger, come back down and restart. Sorry.
Oh my God, yeah, that's okay. And yeah, I think I was struggling to answer some of the questions for you, so I'll read the question again. So maybe if you can show
I'm sure you did a great job.
Yeah. I think one moment. So one participant asks how to present your organization and its vision in the best way.
Yep, truthfully, but I suppose look at your strengths. You could maybe do a kind of a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths? Why are we here? And then present that, as I say, truthfully, but to your best advantage. Sometimes it's a good idea to ask someone else slightly outside your organization to say, what do you think are the best aspects of my organization? Because sometimes we are too close to what we are doing and we don't realize what are the elements that are unique, that are our strengths. So sometimes asking another person who is not so directly connected but is familiar with your work is a good way to find the best points to emphasize.
And will it be now maybe through sometimes asking someone else to facilitate like focus group discussion with members of the organization?
Yes, certainly. Again, they are more likely to ask challenging questions, and sometimes you need to ask challenging questions to get deeper responses from people. So if we are asking about our own organization, we might not want to question its value too much, so we only ask very superficial, surface level questions. But an outsider might ask something controversial and get a debate going, and you stir up, well, what if this our organization wasn't here at all? What would you do then? What if there was no such organization? What would happen to people in its absence? And that gets more to the basics of its fundamental objectives. So yes, an outsider or a critic who will come in and even ask the board of directors difficult questions, never mind asking users or service users. So yes, if you're prepared to hear the answers, then that can be a good way of getting a really good analysis of the organization. And indeed to say to funders, we have undertaken a serious review of our own objectives. Not that we had a vision 10 years ago and we still have that same vision, but every couple of years we bring somebody in and we look at our objectives and we say, are we still necessary? Are we still essential? Do we need to change our vision? So being able to show an external review sometimes to a funder means they say, oh yes, this organization isn't just looking for money and ticking over. They're genuinely reviewing their purpose and their mission, and they're adapting to new needs.
I think there is another question here from it's Joseph Esson, and he said, we are a property development and investment company in Cameroon that helps the diaspora to acquire property in Cameroon with no hassle and complete peace of mind through crowdfunding. How can we benefit from your network to connect with diaspora property investors? Do you organize meetings that bring diaspora investors' businesses together that we can attend? I don't know if Kadi is still there.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe Kadi, maybe if you can talk a little bit about SIDO, the meeting that we had with the African Union, the SIDO, and maybe the project that we are developing to establish a platform for African business networks or diaspora business network and investors. You want to talk about it?
Oui, vas-y, tu peux y aller. Hein?
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, Esong, I think that is a good question. We had a meeting here in December with SIDO, CEDAW is a unit within the African Union that promotes diaspora engagement. So we had a meeting here in Brussels with them in December to look at the ways of establishing a network of African businesses and investors and professionals. And I think in that meeting, the West African Chambers of Commerce was in attendance, as well as East African Chambers of Commerce. And there were African diaspora business networks across Europe that attended the meeting. We are still working on the process of establishing the platform. When the platform is established, I think it will be a good platform for you to link up with. And if you can provide us your email address, I think we will keep you updated on the development of the work in this area. Also, we publish monthly newsletters. In the newsletters, we publish updates from our network, as well as some activities that may be related to businesses, investment, and maybe even diaspora who are interested to grab good business opportunities in their respective countries. So if you send us an email, we will also put you in our mailing list to be receiving our newsletters. I don't know if I've answered your question. I'm looking if there is any other question, Bolo?
Yes. Jipe, can I just make a comment there? I think you answered the question about the meetings, but the questioner mentions crowdfunding, and I think that's an interesting aspect of funding that perhaps none of us have been looking at enough, and particularly for NGOs that I know crowdfunding has been used for some of the organizations, like you would know it's Jipe Change X have used crowdfunding for some of their projects, and there are now platforms, there are apps that facilitate groups that wouldn't really be very au fait with social media or mechanisms for raising funds online, that can provide the platform for an organization with a good project to put it up and have a target to raise funds through crowdfunding, but that then they don't have to get involved in the financial end of things. It's not my area of expertise, but I do think it's something that perhaps NGOs who are more adept perhaps at using social media could be looking at, and just to review and see how it has worked for an organization that has been successful. And that might be an interesting example for one of your future webinars or training on that.
Can you provide us the web link of the crowdfunding platform that you mentioned now?
Yeah, I'll have to look them up. But just as somebody mentioned it, I hadn't been thinking about it for this. But as I say, I'll have a look at ChangeX as well. But I remember seeing a discussion about the difficulties that groups would have in knowing how to go about using the internet for the crowdfunding, because you're basically carrying out financial transactions with people you don't know. So there are apps that were handling that for people, almost as the financial brokers. But yes, I'll look into a couple of the links or a couple of the examples and send them on to you.
Yeah, and definitely I agree with you. I think the webinar we organized in, was it in November or December, was in partnership with Global Giving. And it's a crowdfunding platform, that specializes on crowdfunding for NGOs as opposed to crowdfunding for businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is one other question that was asked when you were disconnected. I think someone asked if it's possible to share an application that has been successful, you know, on a European Union project.
To
Can you hear
see,
me?
yeah. So somebody was asking if they could see the application form for a successful.
No, yes, an application that was successful, maybe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that's up to an applicant to share it, you know, with people. They want to see one that we've done, for instance.
Yeah, maybe the one that you've done.
Yeah. I don't have a problem. I mean, my view would be once something is funded by the European Union or by government, that is public funding, and therefore the details really of that funding should be able to be made public. And certainly for purposes of something like this, if I could find one of the applications, I could take out any personal details that's, you know, to do with individuals, and the text of the various sections could be shared. Yes, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
That would be grand, yeah.
And I think that is useful. I did mention in the presentation that whenever I would look at a new funding source, and often we would be advising community groups, one of our roles is in social inclusion is to support the target groups. They might be traveller organisations or ethnic minority organisations or disability groups to apply for funding, say to the philanthropic trusts or foundations, who maybe in 1 year they might have a priority for travellers or youth or older people. And what we would always do is have a look at typical projects that maybe that foundation has previously funded. So you get an idea, you'll see a synopsis, a couple of paragraphs of the previous projects funded, and you'll usually see the total amount. And these things are nearly always up on websites. Funding like lottery funding in different countries would be a matter of public record. And even in your own countries, I don't know how accessible public information is, but I know that in the parliaments, mostly members of parliament are entitled to the details, far more detail about publicly funded programs, and they usually have large books in the libraries in the parliaments showing the details of funding programs. And I know many years ago I once actually got the details of every project funded under a particular community development program that I wanted to see, by going to, well, I actually only asked a civil servant, but you could go to a member of parliament and ask them for those details so that you could see what kinds of things were being funded. So it's always worth looking and seeing what that organisation or that department funded in previous years, and that's available on the European Union. The different Directorate Generals will nearly always show the projects and programs they've funded in previous cycles of that program.
Yeah. Any other question? And maybe like people should check on Horizon 2020.
Yeah.
I think the organizations that are coordinating the Horizon 2020 within their respective countries, because there is a lot of funding, EU funding available, you know, with them as well.
Yeah, just to say, I know I mentioned it, but for your NGOs, the university sector, the third level institutions, are extremely effective and good at applying for European funding, and a lot of that is for research. But again, for a lot of the, for instance, under Erasmus and indeed under some of the Horizon 2020 programs, they encourage the universities to have partnerships with other organizations, so that they particularly encourage, if not force them, to have industry partners in the sectors. If it's science, they would be looking for scientific partners, or chemical companies or pharmaceuticals. But if it was social science research, for example, they should be looking for partnerships with non-governmental organizations. And the universities may often be reluctant to do that, but there are often individual researchers in universities that would be happy to partner up with voluntary organization, and it would strengthen their applications for some of those funding programs.
Great. Yeah, any other question? Yeah, in the absence of questions, Kathy, would you like to close the webinar?
Ok. Merci, merci JP. Merci à Bora aussi pour la traduction. Ça a permis à tout le monde de suivre à l'aise. Merci à Anne pour cette présentation très limpide et du temps mis à le préparer. Aux participants aussi qui ont posé les bonnes questions. Je pense que la présentation serait disponible pour les personnes qui le demandent, et JP pourrait faire le nécessaire pour vous les envoyer. Sur toutes les autres questions relatives à cette thématique, vous pouvez toujours formuler d'autres requêtes, et nous essaierons de répondre à ces requêtes et de formuler aussi d'autres demandes qui pourront être un sujet de notre webinaire prochainement, parce que Adept ne travaille que à partir de l'intérêt et les demandes, les besoins de ses membres, et surtout de la diaspora même qui n'est pas membre et qui souhaite le devenir. En tout cas, c'est notre souhait, en tout cas, d'avoir encore dans les prochains mois un peu plus d'assises en termes d'adhésion, mais aussi surtout en termes d'action pertinente vers la diaspora. Donc, je vous remercie et espère qu'au prochain webinaire, vous serez toujours intéressés et nombreux à y assister. Merci.
Okay, thank you very much, Kadi, and thanks everyone. Okay, bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Okay.